So we're talking about AI content. This is going to become something that we offer increasingly. And I know that it's not everybody's favorite thing to do, but it is something that you kind of have to know how to do. The nature of SEO is changing dramatically with all this new SGE stuff, and the nature of content creation is too. And so, I really see us moving forward, into October when we launch Hire a Writer AI, really kind of having two classes of content we sell, right? One being completely thought leadership, 100% human, very unique, highly stylized, right? Like things that are truly special and important that we write. And there will be clients that we probably always just do that for. But there's obviously an increasing number of clients and an increasing number of business to be won in the space where people are comfortable with AI generated human edited content. And we can obviously offer that at a pretty significantly discounted rate. So I don't want to miss out on where the future of this industry is headed by just burying our heads in the sand and being like, well, I don't like that. I'm not a tech person, because I'm not a tech person either, but I've forced myself to learn this. So I think that, we all have an opportunity to get familiar with this and to bring the good out of it and do it in a way that actually just makes our jobs really easy sometimes, and still make good money. So basically what I'm going to do today is I'm going to walk us through two ways that I have been using ChatGPT specifically. And I'm not even on the paid version, that I've been using ChatGPT specifically to generate what I would consider to be quality content. Okay. And the first is going to be detailed prompt. Okay. And the second is going to be existing content. So like scraped and retooled, like basically spun content. Now I had to have like a real like soul searching of whether or not I think that's even acceptable from an intellectual property standpoint. So I think that we have to use our human judgment in what we do with that latter approach, which I'll talk about in a second. But let's start with the full prompt. So if you were at our original, and so what we're going to do today is actually, I'm going to blog on the Hire a Writer site in front of you, and we're going to use the content that we create to do that because I have to do it anyway today, and I might as well use the time. And I want you to see in real time what the editing and linking process looks like. Okay. So big picture, no matter which of these two approaches you use, when you generate content using an AI tool of any kind, you're going to have to edit it. The editing you're pretty much going to always have to do, at least with ChatGPT, I've found, like, even if you tell it to add SEO headers, the coding for that is usually off. It'll add the wrong header, or it'll add, like, it won't actually code it. It'll just bold it or something like that. Okay. So you're going to have to edit format. You're going to have to edit line spacing. You're going to have to edit language. Very like repetitive patterns. And Angela and I are actually doing this for one of our clients, and notice that like ChatGPT uses like the words ever evolving constantly. Like, and there's like these little weird like quirks that I have, because I've done it now. I think I've done at least 200 articles in ChatGPT. And ever evolving, delve is a huge word. Yeah, it's wild. I'm like, nobody says that. Unpack, change it. Yeah. So anyway, point being, people who are spending a lot of time on this know this, and those are dead giveaways. And at the end of the day, it's one of those like dirty little secrets almost, how people are treating ChatGPT in the content creation community, where it's like everyone's using it, but nobody kind of wants anyone to know they're using it. So even if we it just becomes poor writing when you are using the same words over and over again. So you're going to be editing content. Okay. So you're editing format, you're editing content, and you are editing links. Okay. So unless obviously this is for a different purpose than SEO blogs, but today we're going to focus on SEO blogs. You will be needing to do the link work as well. Okay. So your couple or 3 external links, your few internal links, and then I'll kind of show you. I mean, it'll depend on what we end up with here in the live, demonstration, but basically like sometimes I'll find that, like, especially when I scrape, one of the best ways to you get additional information. So it'll generate an article, but then you'll be like, yeah, that's kind of lean, the coverage of a concept in a certain area. So then you'll add another prompt to add more content to it. Okay. So that's just part of, like, I would almost call that like the content architecture, as kind of a fourth component that you're going to need to take care of when you get AI generated content. Any questions before we dive in? All right, what's the first thing we need to do? Who was it training before?
Oh, you need to tell it what you want. You gotta
Yeah.
start with like, what is the voice and tone that you need out of something? Train it on
Yep.
that.
Give it an identity, right? So the very first thing we're always going to do with ChatGPT is give it an identity. So we're going to say, so let's do this. We're going to do this for our blog. So let's pick, who wants to pick what topic? We could do social media. You want to do a social media blog? Okay. Let's see what's going on in the world of social media. Anything interesting? All right, this is interesting. So social media likes and public opinion. Okay. All right, that's a good topic. All right, so we'll just take that. So you're a social media strategist. Okay. So we're priming the pump. We're going to basically tell it, this is who you are. Okay. Now, the fact that I use the word cutting edge probably means it's going to be a little douchey. So just keep that in mind because it takes these things and does it in the wrong direction. But we'll undouchify it when we edit it. Okay. So let's say write an article on how likes and engagement metrics. All right, so let's skim the article then. Let's see what they're talking about. Wowza, social media and public policy. All right, so talk about the dynamic of groupthink, right? Talk about how public policy is interpreted differently by segments of people in subcultures, right? Or groups, maybe something like that would probably make sense. I'm just inferring a lot based on this quick skim of this. This is probably not what the guy's saying, but whatever. Okay, talk about Twitter. Okay. Retweeting and resharing policies and how that has influenced public opinion. Say something like that. Okay. And then we'll say, okay, as hidden, as enabled. Okay, and then we just tell it. So basically, I'm telling it the whole article, right? Just tweaking it, and then provide a conclusion that summarizes the article and has a CTA for hire. Anything else? Okay. So that would be a detailed prompt, right? Like I would get all the ideas basically from kind of something else. Obviously, I inferred a whole bunch of stuff based on the fact that I didn't even read that article. And now we're just getting an article from it. Okay. Now, candidly, if I was doing this for our blog, I wouldn't even read it right here. Wouldn't even read it. I would literally just take it and go stage it because I would do all my editing in here anyway. It's faster. I don't need to both copy, edit, and do links separately. I just need to do them at the same time. It's faster. All right. In the meantime, Sanders, let's go to Discord. I guess I could do it. All right. So what kind of, so let's think, group of people with flags, anime, dark, edgy style. All right. So that's going to cook while we do this. All right. I'm going to copy this over. One of the big problems I'm having with ChatGPT is all the titles are too long. They're all too long. So let's just take out that. That's extraneous. Likes and engagement metrics shaping public opinion in the age of social media. That's fine. It's a little long, but whatever. Okay. So then we're going to copy and paste it over. Now I have Grammarly Premium, so I'm automatically going to get recommendations for anything like that. Okay. Now, if I were to do this and every so often I just get a weird feeling that like it didn't I don't know. I get a weird feeling that like it still seems too close to the original article. If that's the case, and I'm like, I don't know if this is like all going to be my words, then I would open up, and I just keep all these tabs open all the time, which I'm sure is really bad for my processing speed for my computer, but it happens. I'll stick it in Grammarly and just do the plagiarism score. I don't need to edit. Again, I don't want to edit it anywhere else than where I'm staging it because that wastes time. And I have Grammarly Premium, so in Chrome, it'll just tell me what its recommendations are. But I'm just going to run a plagiarism checker really quick. No, I'm not, because it's not going quick. All right, we'll let that 1%. Okay, the 1%'s fine. Okay, so it is not plagiarized. All right, so line breaks are the first thing I'm going to fix, right? Social media has revolutionized. I'm always going to fix the first sentence because the first sentence pulls up into our blog grid. And if that looks AIE, people aren't going to read it. I'm not going to say revolutionize because I would never say that. That's fine. And then in this digital era is stupid. Likes, comments, and shares. Okay.
That's the other one, wielding profound power.
Where is it?
It's third line in. It's funny, yeah. It's funny that you mentioned that with the things that you start to pick up after you've seen so much of it.
Yep.
It almost it makes me never want to use any of those words again.
Not funny. All right, and then delve. See, it always does delve.
I actually have started telling it not to use the word delve.
Yeah.
Like, don't include these words. Here's a bunch of them that you always use. Don't use them.
All right, so dynamics of group think. All right, so I'm enough words in here. I want to do an internal. So I've got the search bar up for our website, which will be internal links. We'll see what we've got going. This is the easiest way to do it. This is just going to prioritize based on LSIs because of how the search function works, right? Let's see. So I just picked the one that makes the most sense. What was the context? Emerging trends. That's fine. We could do that. Okay. So I'm gonna do that. Internal link stays in the website. All right. Social media platforms further on the group think. All right. So we need to find, that's a good opportunity. So let's find an external link for that. Oh, those are the words that's the anchor link text I want to use. Investopedia is wrong. Let's find Google Scholar. Bad group decisions, 25 years of group name. There we go. That's a better one. Oh, closed-mindedness and installation. That's much more the point I'm probably going to get at. Sage journals is usually okay, but sometimes it's paid walled. All right, I'm going to insert this, open in a new window because it's an external link. Done. All right. Likes and engagement metrics for this process. When a post generates a bandwagon effect. That's another good key phrase that will go really well with the kind of overall point of this article. Let's see. Very well mind is okay. Here, let's do this one. Okay, so we're going to go in again, do that in a new window. All right, next, H2. All right, so when a post generates a bandwagon effect. Why didn't that take up my... All right. You know, problem is social media, segment people. Let's see if we have anything ranking on that. So we're going to go in. There we go. Perfect. This point, we've got so many blogs. I really always am looking for like knowing kind of what the blog is about as being an important factor for interlinking so that there's larger overlap in key phrase distribution. Just FYI. No policy related to climate change may be seen as essential one group. Okay, that's fine. All right. Twitter's influence. So we're going to go change that because that's not what it's called anymore. All right. Now we have a good article on zombie Twitter. I can link here. Okay. How many links am I up to? 4, 3, 4? Who's been counting?
I think it's 4.
All right. This would be a very good external link, hiding links in posts. We need to prove that that's a thing. There we go. Hootsuite's more authoritative than whatever that one was. All right. So I'm trying to go domain authority wise, you know, kind of estimate. Let me study. Sorry. Fine. All right. That's nothing. So let's just echo the H1. Okay, so we're kind of restating the H1. Go and make that an H2. Or just vanity metrics. Vanity metrics is another good key phrase. I don't want to put another one though. I mean, is it still called a tweet on X? I assume so. Okay, that's dumb. I don't
Yeah,
want that.
he didn't make it that far.
Well, yeah, and he sent a whole branding thing that was Twitter
Yeah, that was awful.
like a week ago. I'm like, okay. Well. All right, so then we'll put our homepage here because I haven't linked that in a while. Link. Okay. All right. Ever changing. That's not too bad. I actually think that's stupid. All right. Throw away. All right. So that's that. This is the, so let's take out the word shaping. Errands are weak, right, Sanders? All right. All right. Then we'll go writing team. We'll go social media, research, data, news, audience. Those are probably all the realistic ones. All right. That's that. We're going to go here and pick up our image. I realize this isn't necessarily the important part. You're just watching me do my chores now. Okay. Which one of these do we like the best? Lindsay?
I like the bottom left.
She's a little booby. Anime stuff tends to be very booby. I usually try to purposefully not pick stuff like that. So I'm like, I don't want to be Googleable. All right. There. I'm going to tiny PNG it. Here. 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 Upload. Compressed version, upload. Alt tag. All right, I copied the meta description, FYI, because I'm going to schedule this on social. And then do the non-compressed version. Looks like we're scheduled all the way out through November. That's good. Okay. Copied this. I'm going to go copy the live link. Done. Okay, that's LinkedIn. Facebook. Pinterest. Okay, so that is the process. So what was that? 15 minutes? Going from a detailed prompt to a fully optimized blog that now is posted on our website. Not bad, right? My concept coverage, probably related to whatever the original article was far enough away because I added things like groupthink. I added things that they don't necessarily state explicitly in this article that make it my own. Okay. And that's pretty much it. So as long as you tell it like exactly what to do and everything to talk about, you pretty much figure it out. Any questions about that? And then we'll do the article scrape version.
I do have questions about this.
Sure.
So is this an SEO play or is this like a numbers game? Because I guess so I have not spent enough time to understand what the long-term effects of this are. So I keep hearing Google's going to punish AI created content, da 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 da. So what is happening? Is this
It's not.
Okay.
It's not. John Mueller, so Google's head of search, basically said they don't care.
Okay. So long as it's not to manipulate the algorithm, da 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 da. Okay.
The litmus test they're saying is quality.
Yes. Okay. So I guess, oh, maybe this is brand specific because I'm just thinking about a brand that we are working with, right?
Mhm.
That wants nothing to do with that. So if Google doesn't care
Mhm.
and we get content that fits the bill, what's the hang up there?
I mean, sometimes it's just people's biases or preferences.
Okay.
Like, because the reality is nothing you create from AI is yours,
Right.
right? So you don't own the intellectual property of it. So that's a problem. Like if a brand wants to like stake their reputation on a certain position that they're taking in the market, even if you could adequately produce that content via AI, you would have to rewrite it 90% to own
Okay.
it. Now that threshold is arbitrary. That doesn't actually exist yet. We don't know what the threshold is, but so I think there are certain brands who just want to say like, I want to build my own body of work and I want to own it. In which case we would have to say like, until the government or until intellectual property laws take a clear stance, we can't know that we know that you wouldn't own
Right.
any AI generated content.
So that is kind of what's holding up the whether or not this is like greenlit versus a hard stop, like that
For a
intellectual.
lot of people.
Yeah.
For
Okay.
certain businesses.
Yeah. Understood. Okay. Thank you. I've got to hop off, but this is being recorded. Can you send it to me later?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
No problem. Bye.
See you guys. Bye.
Any other questions before we scrape?
I kind of had one.
Sure.
Trying to like formulate it though. I guess where's the line between like AI assisted and AI generated? And like how does plagiarism play into that? Because like in my mind, I'm like, if it's being rewritten, how is that any different from just using another blog as a reference?
Explain that to me more. So like what would you say what I just did was?
I mean, I would say that's purely AI generated.
Right.
But, I feel like there's just a lot of gray area as to, especially in the conversation as to what Caitlin was talking about, where it's like somebody who doesn't want anything to do with it. It's like, well, if it's part of the process, I guess I'm just like trying to formulate it in my head, like what is so different about using AI in one of the stages of writing, like outlining
Oh, I see.
or something like that,
Yeah.
or even just like I what I do a lot is I take an article and I'm like, can you summarize this into its main points? Like, where's that line? Because I think plagiarism is a really big topic that kind of interweaves with this whole thing. It's like once we get to the point where we're talking about, copyrights and intellectual property with AI generated content, I don't know, it just gets muddy. And I was curious what your thoughts are. It's
extremely muddy, is what my thoughts are. And there aren't really very emphatic answers. This is the future, though. Like, there's no way around it. There's no escaping it. It's not going to be illegal. Everyone's going to allow it. Like, this is an inevitability. I would say, though, some of the best success I've had with AI content that I feel like is actually unique is not letting, like, I actually think the worst use of AI is research. Because like for ChatGPT, obviously, because it cuts off at 2021. Like, so you're not getting like any current information, which I'll show you in a second, then how I deal with that. But basically, like, you're never going to discover anything that it doesn't want you to discover. It's not getting anything that's very old and not on, the internet, or that's only in a PDF form. It's not getting anything that is just happening. So you're just kind of in this like middle ground of mediocrity, in my opinion, from quality research standpoint. So yeah, I mean, I think you need to look at it as, how is this going to save me time? Do I have a business goal where that goal doesn't, like, I would never let it write my LinkedIn newsletter. That's all me. Like, I'm never going to have AI do that. It's my ideas. It's about my life. It's an amalgamation of my thinking. Like, that's all on me. I'm never going to have AI help me write Book of August, my novel. Like, that's all going to be me, But then I'll do it on the Hire Writer blog. What do I care? Like, it's fact-based. It's pretty simple. And I don't need it to be profound. Like, I don't need it to be mine. I don't, like, its purpose is to drive traffic to our website and educate people on things that are important. And if I can do it in 15 minutes instead of an hour, then I don't see any issue with that. So I think it's divvying up, like people are just saying like wholesale, I'm in or out. And that like,
Mhm.
that's the wrong conversation. You're already in, you have no choice. You're in the society. You don't live out in the woods. Like this is what's happening. So now what do you do? Like now what do you do with it? Where does it have value and where does it not have value? Because there is obviously a huge risk of us becoming very intellectually lazy, where it's like, oh, there's
Mhm.
all these shortcuts. It's like, no, there's no, the very act of researching and sitting in a library with a stack of books trains your brain a certain way, right? Like the very act of finding something that's hard to find shapes your thinking. Like, so if we get away from that, then we're in trouble. It doesn't think for you. So I don't know. That probably was a bit of a soapbox, but that's my
No, I was just happy to hear it. Yeah.
yeah, my opinion.
Yeah, so you said it's not ideal, like don't use it for research. That was kind of my question was, what if you want to include sources or stats or something? Like, would you just do that on your own?
It can. So, I mean, if you go in, you can ask it and say like, let's see. So it'll do this. And some of these may be fun. The challenge is if you asked it to write the article and insert these for you, what you wouldn't know is, does the target content make sense with the point I'm making in this article, right? Like it's not good enough to do that.
Right.
This is just semantics. This is just words connecting to words. Oh my gosh, there's a video. I'll have Chris send it to us of how the guys originally trained this. And they trained it like teaching a baby how to talk. It's very, or was it a podcast? It might have been on the Freakonomics. They just did a 3 series on AI. I'll send it to you guys. It's so interesting. That was off topic.
Okay, that makes sense.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the other way that I think that AI generated content, so, you know, low complexity, there aren't a lot of varying opinions. You can immediately or like very quickly associate it with something that's beyond whatever concept scope you're kind of working with, so that it creates something unique. So like for me, that groupthink thing, like that made my article very unique from the original article. So just thinking through kind of the litmus test for, you know, how you structure a prompt, even based on an idea that you got from somewhere else, so that you end up creating something that's unique. Okay. And again, it has to be something that most people agree on, so that ChatGPT doesn't get confused about, like, if it has A equals A and A equals B, it's just going to choose one of those. And if you don't know enough about the topic, you're not going to know that there's a different opinion out there, right? So your own topical understanding is fairly important to be able to make good decisions here. Also, if you think about what I just showed you, all the skills that it took me to do what I just did as fast as I did it are really important for this being worthwhile. Like if I did this, but I was a really, really slow editor, or I wasn't very good about linking strategies or something like that, like that would have taken me an hour and I might as well have just written it. Right. But because I've developed these skills over the past 20 years, like I can do that in 15 minutes and I know that it's right. And I know that it's what it's supposed to be. I can write a meta description in 12 seconds, like things like that. So you have to think about, like, just again, it doesn't think for you. It doesn't do the work for you. It's just a tool. And if you learn how to use it, you can use some things from it in certain ways, but it's not just fundamentally useful. Okay. So that's all that. So the other case I've really found it to be useful is I have started blogging from, like, especially on our SEO blog. So, you know, Google there is so much information out there and so many platforms and so much news, and in like SEO right now, it's like change. I mean, it's like happening so fast, all this, right? For me to spend the time researching and keeping up with everything that's going on in SEO, we would not have a company. We would not have jobs. It would be my only job. Like it's just too much information for me to manage and run 3 companies and do and raise my children and like, right. So I realized I was like, a shortcut that I think is very fair to take is to basically scrape content from the top 3 search engine SEO platforms and repost it. Right. So for instance, so if I go into every day, I do this SEO news, and there's basically 3, right? Search engine roundtable, search engine land, and search engine journal. They all post about the exact same thing, which is usually something that John Mueller from Google said, something from a Google Q&A session, something people said on Twitter, right? Like they're all covering the exact same content. It's like a news cycle, right? Like every platform is covering Libya. Every platform is covering the hurricane. Like, right? It's not plagiarism or stealing somebody's ideas to take what everybody's covering and just spin it in your own words or with your own vantage point. Okay. So I had to really think that through because I'm obviously very conscious of this being ethical. Okay. So for instance, this is Microsoft Research. I've read about this on like 5 different platforms. So what I would do is I would go in and I would take this from Search Engine Journal and I would go into ChatGPT and I'd say, rewrite this. And I would literally copy and paste the entire article. And then make sure I pay attention if there's links I'm going to need to use. And then I would tell it to rewrite it. And it'll totally rewrite it. Now, this one specifically, we're going to run through, obviously, a plagiarism checker to make sure it doesn't pick up anything. I think I mentioned to you, at least Lindsay, to you, like I'm blogging like 8 times a day in order to kind of experiment with traffic and stuff. And I don't want to sell this to clients in October if I'm not confident it can work. So I've been doing that for like 2 months because I want to test everything before we, tell clients it's going to give them value. I want to make sure it actually will. And it is working. Like we had, I don't know, 100 site visitors, this and that and the other extra, all these things. All right. So for this one, I'm going to take it over into Grammarly Premium. I'm going to check plagiarism. So that's running. SEO is what? Cubism style? All right, so we'll get that cooking while we go. We'll go create the blog here. All right, let's check. No plagiarism. Great. All right, so then we're going to take this in. And we're going to do the same thing. Okay, and we'll do one more together just so you've seen me do it twice. All right, so we're going to kind of read through Microsoft Research, question answering model. Line breaks are obviously not as much as I'm going to make. They also always bold, so I just have to go in and change that. All right, and then let's see. So it said what? There was a paper on it that I opened, right? Generative retrieval for conversational. Here we go. All right, so we'll link this. It's not ideal to have an external link be the first one in an article, though. So let's see if we have anything else. I don't think so. All right, well, not ideal, but we'll do it. All right, traditional keyword-based algorithms. That's a good key phrase, right? Searchable. We're going to use it as our anchor link text. We're going to see if we have anything on our website. Here we go. Keyword themes. That's a good one. Talks about algorithms. All right. All right. Identifier strings. This is interesting. Read this while I do it because this is an interesting idea. Even though Microsoft can kiss my butt. All right. So this is pointless. Just take that away. See, so that's not a good H2, right? Because that has no SEO value. So we'll make that an H3 just so we still get some LSI juice from it, but we don't need it as a key phrase. So deprioritize it. Okay. Interesting. Conversational queries. I have we have a, let's throw a CTA in here. We have a blog on voice search we should probably put in here. Limitations. Here we go, section heading. So what does that have to do with? That has to do with informational design or SEO blogging. So let's see if we've got an SEO blog we can use that has that as the primary key phrase. Yep, that'll work. Internal, how many external links? I've only done one, right? Okay, we're gonna take out the word in conclusion because that's stupid. Generative retrieval. It's interesting. All right, the word generative itself. Let's see, we could do a single generative model. Let's see if there's a second Microsoft page that talks about this. Yeah, I guess that'll work. Linking to Microsoft might blow up my website. All right, so this is not a good end because we didn't reiterate the H1 at any point. So let's do reiterate the H1. Ever evolving. So notice I didn't tell it to do a CTA, but it did it. So you have to pay attention to chat on ChatGPT, like individual chats will carry themes. So like if you notice, I forgot to tell it to become an SEO specialist. So it's still writing as a social media specialist, but because I scraped content, it doesn't really matter as much because it's just retooling what I gave it. But it also picked up that I had told it before to put a CTA and it did it again. So it's kind of, I mean, it's fine. It was nice of it, I guess. All right. Do this work. Which one? Bottom right. Yeah. Doesn't look like cubism, does it? This is the only one that looks like cubism, even though it's my least favorite one. What are the styles? SEO is cubism. Creative is pop art. Social media is anime. Business is WPAP. Where is it? Right, I'm going to compress it. Download it. Go in here. Microsoft tag. It's algo. It's kind of technology. Oh, not Black Hat. All right. I realize these are kind of weak metas, but they're technically correct. So I'll just let it be. All right. So that would be a fast way. So what? That took less than 15 minutes. That would be a fast way of picking up news, right? We're rewriting something that everybody's writing about that was a big news story in the industry. So going through and just kind of manually reviewing any industry publications and then scraping them and reposting them is essentially newsjacking, right? Like we do newsjacking in SEO all the time. Like it's an efficient way. And you can kind of, as long as you're picking from authoritative sources, know that what you're putting into it is a reliable stance, right? Like if Search Engine Journal published it, it's a reliable stance. So they can, you don't have to know the points that need to be made. You don't have to learn the intricacies of whatever technology that is, right? That kind of thing, but you're still able to put up content about it that pulls website or that pulls traffic into your website that would be going somewhere else. So that's the scraping method. Now, another, like a kind of a third way you could do this is you can, and I have done this before, especially with like bulleted lists or like listicle style articles. I'll scrape them, put them in here. And then if it's like 6 ways to I'll be like, make it 7 ways. Like change the number of it so that it's different, substantially different from the original article. Another thing is like a lot of Google developer kind of blogs will have like a lot of lists. So like, you know, bulleted lists and things like that. I'll go in and tell it to like reorder this like reorder this list or reorder all of this content. So if it's like in order, you know, if it changes the order, it kind of becomes unrecognizable from the original. The other thing I'll do, and I mentioned this before, is like take multiple articles and put them together and then basically tell it what conclusion I want it to make. So if I take like, so for instance, if it's something that's fairly like controversial, so like personalization, right? So I took a bunch of articles on personalization and marketing and then said, take these articles and then take a con stance, like write me an article in arguing against personalization and marketing. So the content I gave it was all about like like look at all the benefits of personalization and marketing, but it generated an article for me that was against personalization and marketing. So it's a way to like really start out at 70% done, right? Like you start out so much further along, but you're still making whatever point you want to make. Okay. Anything else? Any other? All right. So let's open the floor. What does this make? Does the process make sense to you? Is there anything you want to see again? It's two things and both pretty simple. Do you have any ethical qualms about any of them?
Not ethical, but I think a lot about what you were saying about like, are people just gonna stop thinking? Like, I don't know. I consider that a lot. Like, because in one of my classes last semester, I started noticing all these announcements, like you can't use AI to write your papers. Like, we refrain from using AI to engage in the discussion posts. And I'm just like, wow, the discussion posts are literally for thinking. So if people are using AI for that, it's gonna get weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I last semester when I was teaching, I had I think about 10 AI written papers that I had to deal with. Yeah, no, I think the issue, yeah, I to a certain extent, I think people are just gonna stop thinking as much, at least for themselves. But one thing I will say that I did notice in that is that, and I don't know if it's different if you ask ChatGPT to be like, hey, give me a list of like data and links. But I did know that if like within the context of like writing an article, ChatGPT would just make up sources.
Mm-hmm.
So that is, I guess I'm wondering if it's a topic that I'm not 100, like if I'm 60 or 70% good at, but not 100.
Mm-hmm.
Has there been any issue with kind of running into that with writing these kind of articles? Because like clearly that was like academic stuff, so that's different. But has there been any issue with like it getting confused there?
Yeah. So I've had like part of the reason I do the scraping method for SEO is that SEO in 2021 was a totally different animal than SEO in 2023. So all the reference I mean, it'll make emphatic conclusions that something is the case. And I'm like, I know that that's not the case. And so I have to know enough about it to check that, you know, and like go in and say, and that's when, you know, and I can still use ChatGPT for it. I just have to find a more current version of whatever it was talking about, be it search or be it whatever, and copy and paste it in and say, rewrite this and substitute it in this section or whatever. And then it'll go in. But that's where the human component, like, you can't just set the program and let it run. Like you have to be looking at it and checking it. It'll also make up stories about brands. So it'll make up like Coca-Cola ran this campaign and da 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 da, and like it didn't. Like, so you have to kind of watch that. Sorry, Angela.
We did one like this for about what's it about? Oh, like cannabis law cases, like legal cases and lawsuits and things. And it pulled in like a ton of them. And I went through to check them all and get sources for all of them. And I would say like 4 or 5, just I couldn't find any proof that they existed. There were like maybe some components of other things that they pulled in, like of other cases, and got the names mixed up or something. But most of them were correct. But yeah, it was just kind of making some stuff up, I think. So
You have to fact check hardcore.
yeah.
Mhm.
Have you explored like any of the plugins that can be built on top of ChatGPT or AI agents to kind of take care of the like the linking and the editing and stuff like that?
Yeah, Chris
Um,
has.
yeah.
Why? What do you think about them?
I mean, I've only kind of explored them. I think they're definitely in their infancy as far as like the technology goes. Um, but I mean, I think with the right mind and the right skill set, you could build something that could essentially automate everything that you've just showed us.
Yep.
So you can just click, 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 even less work.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, you know me, I have this whole like philosophy of how humans are wired that like people think they don't want to work, but you actually do want to work. You derive great pleasure from working. Even if you don't have to work, you will, even if you wouldn't define it as work, right? Like old people don't usually just sit in their house. And if they do, they die fast. Like they go out and garden and they play pickleball and they like, we're wired for activity. And so I think, and we're wired for utility. So people want to say like, oh, machines are going to take over all the rote tasks. And it's like, well, yeah, but that's how you, that's the reps. Those are the reps you put in to learn how to do something. And, you know, yeah, I think it'll be skill development will be very interesting. I think we have a unique opportunity as communicators. You know, you probably know that there's a huge portion of our community and our field that are AI averse to an incredibly high degree. At the end of the day, how this affects us is it ultimately is going to flood the internet with content. So content will no longer be the differentiator, right? And we've said before, it'll flood it with terrible content, but maybe not, right? You get people like us who know what to do with it. We can make it good. But that's why so many SEO specialists are talking about venturing into PR, getting more into social media, thinking beyond what's on your website, because what's on your website, be it volume or quality, may no longer be a key differentiator. Yeah.
I don't know if you caught onto this news, but apparently ChatGPT in particular has been hemorrhaging users for the last like 2 or 3 months.
Hmm.
So maybe we're like we were in this like very engaged kind of honeymoon period with AI, but I don't know if it's as popular as it was at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I mean, there are some industries that change too fast for it to ever probably be. I don't know. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. What I know is you need to know where the library is and you need to know how to get there. And you need to remember how to pick up a physical book and look for something in it. And I'm very passionate about teaching my kids that. You need to know table of contents. You need to know indexes. You need to understand how to read publishing dates.
Yeah.
Like you just.
Well, I was just thinking back to what you were saying earlier about like, yeah, just doing the research. I can't even imagine what it would be like now. Like, even if you're not writing with ChatGPT, you can still feed it a PDF and be like, hey, find me this thing. And it's like, yeah, how many peer-reviewed articles I had to skim through to write like a lit review paper? Like that just, I don't think it exists anymore. And it's just crazy to me. Like you're not going to get all that kind of outside knowledge or like contextual knowledge. It's just you're just going to get right to what you need. Wonder how that's going to affect everything.
And true intelligence is built when you're able to connect something from over here into something over here, right? Like that's the highest level of thinking, is to take two disparate ideas and connect them in a meaningful or new way. That's what our brains are always trying to do, right? We're always trying to crack the code of what we see and what we experience. And so you remove that as a key activity that humans need to apply in their daily lives. What happens to that unmet need? I don't know. But I know it's not this influencing our field, marketing, content, all that is an inevitability. This influencing us, our intelligence, our creativity, our engagement in society is not an inevitability. We have absolute agency over whether or not we choose to engage with this in any level in our normal lives, right? And we have every opportunity to continue to learn whatever we want. We live in a free society. We have access to libraries and books. And so we're not constrained by it, nor should we be frightened by it. But let's learn how to use the tool well so that we can make money and feed our families and do the things we want to do. Okay. Optimism. Any questions as we end up? Okay. So as you get assigned articles and things like that, this will be an activity to do moving forward. So Sanders, this is pretty much the process we're going to do with Game Zone is the second one, the news tracking one. So we'll get, I think you have time on the calendar with
yeah, next week.
Ross
We're
next
going to chat about it when he gets back from his vacation.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
should be fun.
Sounds good. All right. Well, thanks for being here, everybody. Nice to see everybody. Have a good rest of your day. Slack
Thank
us
you.
if
You
you
do the same.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joy.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.